Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast focusing on Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined as always by Derek Brissett. Derek, it's been a pretty quiet week, but we've got a couple of news stories to break. What have you been up to?
Oh, not too much, man. Enjoying, I guess, Labor Day weekend. The unofficial last weekend of summer. So spent it reorganizing and cleaning the apartment. So super fun summer activity, Went to the CNE for a bit. That was a good time. There's some wacky food down there. So that's always fun. Other than that, watched a little bit of rugby. Love New Zealand rugby media. It's the best. It's the best. Looking at all the the hit pieces on everything that's wrong with this team, how bad the All Blacks are right now, and then you look at the standings and they're in first. Love it.
Yeah, never happy. Never happy, are they?
All the trouble that they've had, and they're just like, we're just going to slaughter Argentina this weekend, and then slowly move back to first place. And after all the complaining everybody's been doing, they're still in first, man. It's I guess when you've set the bar so high as an organization, you unfortunately have to live up to that all the time. So
yeah, top of the rugby championship now.
Yeah, exactly.
By only one point.
Disaster, which is a disaster for them.
Exactly. It's terrible. Yeah. Just throw the whole program out now.
Honestly, if they
coach out, captain out, players out, even the kit man, replace him.
Yeah, well,
just everything needs to be throw out the entire bath, the bath water, the baby as well.
They should just
quit. Bathroom.
They should just quit.
Yeah,
send all the staff to Canada, please.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what should happen. But yeah, no, that's always one of my low key favorite things about following rugby is just watching the New Zealand media implode and then the All Blacks somehow end up winning for some reason. Anyways, it's funny to me.
Yeah, it's funny to a lot of people. Maybe not Kiwis, but definitely other fans of the rugby championship teams.
I wish we could complain about being in first all the time.
Yeah. First place problems.
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, actually, let's bring it back home because we do have a few announcements. So we'll start with Rugby Canada, and Rugby Canada have announced the Women's World Cup squad for the 2021 World Cup being played in 2022 in New Zealand. As it was announced during the game against Wales, the squad list has now been expanded by World Rugby to 32 players. So this will be the largest World Cup playing group that has gone to any World Cup, and this is not just Canada, it's for any team. And there's a lot of new faces that Kevin Ray has picked as part of his squad, but he's doing a mix of senior experience by having players like Brianna Miller, Laura Russell, Olivia de Merchant, Karen Packin, and a lot of players that have already featured in at least one previous World Cup. But there's a lot of new faces that are making their inaugural World Cup appearance. And, obviously the big one has to be Sophie de Goede. Not only is this her first World Cup, this will also be the first time she's captaining at the World Cup as well. So congratulations to Sophie. And there's going to be, so as I said, 32 players are flying out. There are also 8 non-traveling reserves. And, even with a squad as big as 32 players, certain players are going to have to be left on standby. Certain names spring out like Abby Duguid and Renee Gonzalez. And, for players' welfare standards, you're obviously hoping that these 8 players aren't going to be called upon. But, it's rugby. It's a full contact sport. We understand that things can happen, injuries can happen. And, so it looks like a very strong team list that is going to be going out. You can get the full list on the Rugby Canada website. And also announced today, not by Rugby Canada, but by the Fijian Rugby Union, is that the Fijiana, so the women's Fijian team, are set to play Rugby Canada on September the 23rd. This will be at 6 p.m. local time in Suva. So if you're planning on watching that game, you may want to take the following Friday morning off because it's going to be a pretty late one, guys, I'm afraid. Eastern time kickoff is 2 a.m. on Friday the 23rd, whilst on the Pacific coast, it will be Thursday, September 22nd at 11 p.m. Well, Derek, you did say that you wanted Canada to play another game before the World Cup, and it seems like your wish got granted. So, how are you feeling about Rugby Canada playing Fiji just before the World Cup?
No, I like it. I think a full month in a bit, I guess, without playing a game, might not have been the best. So I'm glad something got worked out. Obviously Fiji has quite the proximity to New Zealand, so that works out too, kind of playing, I guess, a country somewhat geographically close to New Zealand as well. Um, and yeah, like I think it's just like I guess with the way the prep's going, I believe the team is like flying out sometime later this week or early next week or something. So like obviously it's a long, like the World Cup campaigns are long because part of that is flying over ahead of time and getting acclimatized, adjusting
Yeah.
to the time zone and all those kind of things that go in with playing like a lengthy month-long tournament in basically the opposite end of the world. So that's like it's obvious. I think it's a great thing, and obviously, it's nice to have a game just to kind of get your legs back underneath you before going into the World Cup. The team itself, I mean, super happy with the roster that Rouge has announced. You did kind of mention a couple really notable people on the non-traveling reserve, some very notable players there, and I guess like obviously Rene Gonzalez has been really good. Maybe the fact that Maddie Grant and Paige Ferries were dominant over the past couple games, maybe that didn't necessarily do her too many favors. But like I guess
Well, it seems to be like that's the good tough choice you want to make. Is like, which amazing player do I have to leave behind?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, obviously Canada's fourth in the world, man. It's a strong team, right?
Yeah.
The other ones that's kind of are interesting too, just because I noticed it, found it kind of interesting. Pam Buisa, who has been playing really well for the 15s team, especially during that Pacific Four tournament. So she's on the non-traveling reserves, as is Chloe Daniels, who are both at the World Cup of Sevens this week. I wonder if their involvement in the Sevens team is kind of a little bit of a, well, you're playing Sevens during part, even if it's really early on in the tour. Maybe that's part of that sort of decision. I'm not really sure, but I guess that might be, maybe that's what you get when you have players that go back and forth between the two squads. There's decisions that got to be made when certain things, even though it's not really overlapping, but maybe it's you never know what's going to happen at this sevens tournament either, right?
Absolutely.
So maybe you have that. And then obviously Cindy Nellis being based in New Zealand, that's a no-brainer for a non-traveling reserves player. So it's good to have one of your non-traveling players being in the country that you're playing in already, in case just in case, and obviously hope nothing does happen. The actual squad itself, I mean, obviously there's a lot of handful of veterans, some players in their third World Cup, some players going to their second, and you mentioned obviously there's a ton going to their first as well. Sophie DeGoody being the captain, that's super cool because her dad and mom were both captains at World Cups. So that's it's a pretty awesome, I guess, it's a pretty awesome like Rugby Canada royal family kind of dynamic of the heir to the throne kind of thing. I've been watching a lot of House of Dragons and stuff the past couple years. So I want to talk everything in House of Dragon terms, which is awesome because we get to talk about a team called the Dragons in like 10 minutes. So like it all is gonna come up. So like that's really cool to that just for her family, that's kind of a cool legacy that the DeGoody family has built within Canadian rugby. So obviously all the best to her, and like hopefully she goes well at the tournament as we fully expect because she's basically the best player in the world at this point in time. Um, and yeah, rest of the team is is solid, man. I don't really have any complaints about the squad at all. It'll be yeah, it's I think it's gonna be great. It's nice to see too, even just looking at the it's nice to see too, like even just looking at the clubs represented. It's like, you obviously got like, obviously looking at the list, you see a lot of like Exeter Chiefs and a couple Saracens and stuff. But then when you get through the Canadian clubs and stuff, there's a lot of representation from across the country, which is
Yeah.
obviously a really nice thing to see. Very like spread out, like as far as the club representation goes, which is awesome to see. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it, and yeah, man, it should be a great tournament. Like we've been kind of saying the whole time, like fourth ranked team in the world. You got Italy to start. You're ending with the massive match with the United States, which is going to be so much fun. Like a lot of reasons to get hyped up about this tournament, man. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, something else to mention is that Laura Russell,
Yes, of course.
considering the games that we now know are coming off of 4 games. So the warm up game against Fiji and then the 3 pool games that Canada said today. If she features in 3 of those 4 games, she will overtake Maria Gallo as number 2 of the most appearances for a Canadian woman. And at the same time, Olivia Demerchant and Boca Boom are set to break their 50 cap marks with their next selections as well. So, yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think it's going to be a great tournament. We've been waiting for this one for an extra year due to COVID. So I think there's going to be a lot of anticipation, a lot of good games. And because of the time difference from New Zealand to Toronto, where we'll be watching, the group games for Canada fall very well. They fall, yes, late in the day, but always on the weekend. So, you got a bit of an excuse to stay up late when the World Cup's on. So, yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic to watch.
Yeah, that's
All right.
the one nice thing, I guess. I guess living in Toronto, kind of like if you're a sports fan on the East Coast of North America, you get kind of used to watching games that start at like 10 o'clock anyways,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Especially if you're watching like West Coast, West Coast anything, NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL, like there's a lot of teams on the West Coast, even the MLR, man. There's
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
true.
Seattle games that we're used to watching that start at 10 o'clock or something, right? So
Yeah, the Arrows' first game of
yeah,
22 was against Seattle at 10 p.m. on the
yeah,
Sunday.
exactly.
So,
It's really not much different, right? And then obviously,
yeah.
if you, which is also the nice thing too, if you live on the West Coast, then it's even a little bit better. It gets more into almost prime time viewing for West Coast people. So that should be
Yeah.
good, man.
Yeah. So, mentioning Toronto, we're moving up the focus to that because the Arrows have announced that they are now in a new professional development partnership with the Hong Kong Rugby Union.
Mm-hmm.
And what this entails is that, so in the press release, the Arrows say the partnership, which features an exchange program between the 2 organizations, will see Arrows players earn development opportunities in Hong Kong's Detol Men's Premiership. Conversely, the Pacific City's top young players also stand to gain experience with the Arrows in Major League Rugby. And it's already been announced that the first player to benefit from this new partnership is Arrows lock Adrian Wadden, who is signed with Sandy Bay. Although I should say that Sandy Bay have put in their Instagram post to announce that we'll be joining the Bay on loan. So I did have the time to take like a quick look at like the rules regarding players and foreign players and stuff like that. And so Adrian Wadden will be classified as a loan player, which means that he can only play for Sandy Bay. He can only play a set number of games as well. And then should Sandy Bay make the championship series, he'll be able to play for that as well. So the Dentalmen's Premiership runs from October to, I believe, April, in which is when it normally runs. However, there have been because of COVID cancellations for the past few years. So this will be hopefully the first full running of the Dettol Men's Premiership in Hong Kong for the first time since like 2019. So, another tournament that has a lot of anticipation, a lot riding on it, and very good to see that we're getting like Arrows players over there at I'll be the first one to admit my knowledge of the Hong Kong Rugby Union Men's Premiership is very limited. So I don't know any of the big name stars that are currently playing, but as has been indicated with this press release, we should be seeing like young players come over to play in the MLR in 2023. So what do you make of this new partnership?
Yeah, man, I think it's cool. I think it's always always good to get some young players like Wadden, like more experience, right? And if as kind of Mark Winokur points out in the press release, like the two leagues kind of play complementary schedules, so there's obviously, as you said, on loan, right? So opportunity to go play and then come back and play the MLR season, or probably opportunity from the guys from Hong Kong to play in Hong Kong, come over for the MLR season, if that's how I guess, because that's kind of seems to be how the partnership seems to be being worded, right? Is that there's probably going to be a couple guys from Hong Kong, I guess, on the Arrows next year, or at least within maybe the Arrows Academy or some sort of structure like that.
Yeah,
right. So I think that's I think that's great, and I think obviously it's probably something that hopefully is mutually beneficial for both like the Toronto Arrows and Hong Kong. I think that's obviously I think it's a good thing, right? Anytime you're able to get more guys, more playing time, and like around the world, maybe some like experience playing rugby in different parts of the world, it's always a good thing. And I mean, obviously, like Hong Kong, is like Hong Kong's a pretty good national team too, or a decent national team. I mean, obviously they're not don't necessarily I don't think have ever qualified for the World Cup, but I guess they got a shot this year again in the repechage tournament. I guess we can see how they go in that. I mean, if they don't make it, I mean, realistically, it's a country that's kind of, I guess, finding themselves on a similar level of Canada now, I guess, right? So it's nice to be able to help each other out mutually and stuff, get some experience for guys. It's interesting, like looking at like the Hong Kong Rugby Union's website, they like on the homepage they have like you can just like submit a form if you think you're eligible to play for Hong Kong and stuff. So they kind of have that. I did like the Sandy Bay put up the a little post welcoming Adrian Wadden as well. They listed an interesting fact. I
was going to mention this, but yeah,
born in Sweden. Did not know that.
Did not know that either.
Yeah, did not know. Wow, that's that is actually that is the definition of an interesting fact.
That is a very interesting fact. Yes.
Yeah.
And, it obviously highlights Adrian's playing experience, playing for the Oakville Crusaders, the Toronto Arrows, playing for Leeds Beckett University, playing at Twickenham in the Bucks final.
What's Sweden's rugby team like?
I can't find them on the top 30 of World Rugby.
The one thing I really do like about Sweden's sport teams, that I've Googled their rugby team and stuff, is like all their teams basically use the same, like the Tre Kronor, the 3 crown logo that the hockey team uses. And it like every Swedish sports team's kits are unreal. Like it's one of the best aesthetically pleasing sports nations in the world. That's a bit of a tangent, but Adrian Wadden's from Sweden, so that's cool. Or born in Sweden, I guess. Reverse William Nylander, basically.
No, fair enough. Well, as I said, the partnership seems to be is going to be seeing a long-term potential. As I said, complementary seasons helping them, and it allows players not only to compete in the Hong Kong's Dettol Men's Premiership, but also have opportunities for to work in Hong Kong as well, and it'll give options for hopefully Hong Kong players to come over here, play for the Arrows, get a bit of the taste of MLR, and see what they like about it. So, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see on the eventual Arrows announcement of a signing from Hong Kong. And yeah, more Hong Kong players for MLR 2023. You heard it here first.
Also, this is the rugby team that's called the Dragons that I was alluding to earlier.
Yeah,
That's their nickname. How do you
so,
feel about that as a Welsh person that
well,
they stole your name and also probably have a cooler logo?
well, they do have a very nice logo. I mean, Wales's logo is three ostrich feathers, so make of that what you will.
A dragon is cooler than three ostrich feathers.
Yeah, I will agree with that. And I think it's like a blue dragon. So whenever they play Wales, Wales are the red dragons. Hong Kong are the blue dragons. So, no conflict, no possibility to get it wrong. But if you say I support the dragons at one of those games, it'd be like narrow it down, mate. But that's the and like I said, the Dettol Men's Premiership in Hong Kong begins in October. I think it's October 1st. It actually kicks off. So, and if there's a team you want to follow, well, now you've got one, Sandy Bay, which is where Adrian Warden will be playing.
And I think on the website for the actual men's premiership in Hong Kong, it says they have like to follow like their social media. So apparently they put up like a game of the week link. So hopefully there's opportunity to actually watch Adrian playing over there. If you follow Hong Kong Rugby Union's social media. So I don't know. I'm gonna look for that when it's up. If Adrian's playing, maybe I'll toss a link up on Twitter or something if I catch it on time. But hopefully that'd be cool to watch though. I'd be down.
Oh, it'd absolutely be cool to watch. And speaking of where you can watch rugby, unfortunately, there is no rugby championship this week. Otherwise, I would have directed you to TSN, where you can watch it there. But coming up this weekend, we mentioned it a lot last week. It is the Rugby World Cup Sevens in South Africa. And it was announced that you'll be able to watch all of the Sevens action on CBC. Again, it is in South Africa, so a few early starts. I think the first men's game is somewhere around like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Eastern time. So, not the ideal start, especially if you normally wake up, like I do, at like 7 o'clock. So, but I'm sure CBC will have the highlights for those games. And then obviously just have a monitor available and work on the Friday. And then you'll be able to watch all the games that you want on Saturday and Sunday without your boss breathing down your neck, which I think is fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, unfortunately, that is it. That, as I said, it's been a very quiet week, so to speak, but we thought we'd get these news stories out to you. We hope you've had a wonderful long weekend for Labor Day. And if you'd like to listen to more of our podcasts, you can do so on Spotify, Anchor FM, or Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to watch any of our episodes, you can do so on YouTube at Rouge Rugby. And you can find us across social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Rouge Rugby. Derek, where can the lovely people find you on social media?
At Brissette the Jet across all social media platforms.
And you can find me mainly on Twitter and Instagram at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, Derek, thank you for joining me, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. We know it was a bit shorter this time around. We're hoping that more information comes out of all the rugby competitions. We'll be back next week to review the Rugby World Cup Sevens. We hope you can join us then.